I don't know exactly what's going on with Tucker Carlson. He was never, Josiah, the most stable person, but he's getting even more unstable and bunkers as he realizes that he's kind of fading out of relevance now that he doesn't have his bougie Fox News position, and he can pump up the Twitter numbers as much as he wants. Doesn't mean a whole lot. And so as he kind of unravels, I guess you could call this a midlife crisis of some kind. He, to get attention, this is my speculation, is trying to put out there more and more wild things. In this situation, it's him saying, guys, Trump's going to, this is what he's saying, Trump's going to be assassinated. And pushing, as I say often, I kind of talk about these stories in a lighthearted manner so we can stay sane and have fun with life and not be angry at politics, as is easy to be. But this is very dangerous, what you're about to hear here, because you're telling, in the case of Tucker Carlson here, a bunch of people who are already really angry about what's happening when it comes to Trump, him being held legally accountable, but in their eyes, him being politically persecuted. You're telling them, and next he's going to be assassinated, which will then, in the minds of those followers, justify potentially worse views / actions in response to Trump's prosecutions. And so I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's the most recent example from Tucker Carlson, Josiah, in his cabin or something. Take a look.
What do you think the future holds? Is it?
I don't know.
I mean, are they going to let Trump be president?
No, of course. I mean, look, if, they protested him, they called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him.
Incredibly dangerous.
And baseless, too. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. It's his side of the aisle that seems to have a monopoly on violent rhetoric and escalatory rhetoric. You don't hear anything like that from the left or from Democrats. I don't know what he's talking about.
And before discussing further, here was this just a few weeks ago during his interview with Trump. He says this to Trump's face. Are you worried about that potential?
So if the protest didn't work, you got elected anyway. Yeah. Impeachment didn't work twice, obviously. Indictment is not working. Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of last year, your numbers went up. They can indict you 20 times, and you're not gonna lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well, so it makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So what's next? After, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life, that's not working. So, don't they have to kill you now?
I think the people of our country don't get enough credit for how smart they are. And I'm not sure.
Obviously, no evidence in the world of that being what's happening. And it's interesting how people do really perceive the world as this they existing. Everything that happens that is often against what the followers of, the viewers of people like Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump, what is opposed to their viewpoint. Anyone doing something they don't like is a part of the same they. And it reminds me of recently we're hearing this talking point of, a school over here in Georgia, I think, and a hospital over here somewhere else have implemented mask mandates because of the surge in COVID cases. And they are testing to see how people react to that. And then Biden's going to implement that nationwide to steal the election from Trump. I don't even know how that makes sense, but how is the same they doing all of this? Same thing with Trump's legal troubles. In all these different jurisdictions for different crimes, he's being held legally accountable. And that is the same they escalating and seeing if it'll work, and then they'll have to go to the most escalated thing possible, an assassination.
Yeah, so it's the interesting thing about people who are like predisposed to conspiracy theories, because they're unfalsifiable, right? And we discussed this before, and you've seen this in your own interviews on the ground with Trump supporting conspiracy theorists. There's nothing you can say that they can't twist as proof of the infamous they or the deep state or whatever. And part of the rhetoric is that Joe Biden is simultaneously this decrepit, dementia-riddled puppet, and also this all-powerful, dictator, shadow tyrant who's not only controlling every level of the justice system, local, state, and federal in the United States, but also manipulating global events as well. But again, I keep going back to the conversation between Trump and Tucker, and even that first clip that you played. Not saying that the left is incapable of violence, because that's certainly not true, but the statistics are very clear, and this is reflected basically at every level of law enforcement when they study it. Right-wing political violence is infinitely more demonstrated than on the left. And I was also thinking of when, you may recall early on in Trump's presidency, when the comedian Kathy Griffin, held up that severed head in effigy of Donald Trump. She was called out. She wasn't even a sitting member of Congress, and she said it was a joke. She was called out by everybody, including Democrats as well. Correct. I mean, and so it's just a completely baseless and irresponsible thing to say. And it may end up triggering violence on down the road, because you may convince Trump supporters that they have to act to protect Donald Trump, even in the absence of evidence.
Exactly what we're talking about here. That's how these dangerous views get developed and then actions prompted, because people believe things are happening that aren't, but then use those things that they believe to be happening as justification to do the bad things themselves. And then those are very real actions. And just quickly, you mentioned conspiracy theorists can bend anything to prove their own point. It reminded me of an interview that James Comer did, and he got asked by, it was probably Steve Doocy on Fox News, where's the evidence of the crime? I can't remember exactly who it was who asked me his exact answer, but it was something to the effect of, well, see, the deal is he's a criminal, and criminals are really good at concealing their crimes. So he's suppressing the evidence. Wait.
Right. The absence of evidence to James Comer is proof of evidence itself. It's like that's, it's this evidence-shaped, absence in the plot. That's proof of it. That's proof of Joe Biden's criminality.
Thank you so much for watching. For the outro on this video, I want to plug Josiah's channel. Hit them with it, Josiah.
Hey, everybody. I appreciate you watching. You can find me at youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics. One word, Pondering Politics. If you like progressive commentary that focuses on coalition building with other elements of the left and calling the Republican Party out for what it's become, I hope you'll view my channel, give me a like and subscribe and some feedback. Again, youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics. Thanks again.